Good morning, welcome back to Featherwood Farm. I know it's been a minute, but I would like to get in an August tour right now. So it is early on a Sunday morning, and we're in the courtyard, and some things have, gone over a bit, some things are just starting. So these are the Almapotchki asters that are gonna get this really, really vibrant pink, and they're just starting to come into bloom, looking lovely. All of these echinaceas that I was concerned were going to be orange actually seem to have reverted back to the purple, like their natural coloration. So they actually work here, and the goldfinches have already been getting to work on some of the seed heads. Our sedums down here looking really nice, also just starting to open on some of those. Here's another one of those cone flowers that I did not put here. It had to have just self-seeded from something else, and yeah, put itself here. The Culver's root has since gone over. Got a couple little blooms lasting, a little bit of toppling as well. Actually, I think that might have been from the chickens getting in here, but behind all that, this is the Blackcock's big blue stem. This one in the center did not put on as much growth, and I don't know if it's like it got trampled. You can kind of see the dusty area behind there where the chickens dirt bath, but this one on the end performed really well, and you can see the seeds dangling from those, so I'm sure birds are going to come through and take those before too long. And then more of those Almapotchki. Now, the flowers are really lovely, but as you can see, very bare stemmed. I'd say the first foot on these, and then some toppling. So I don't know how I'm going to address that, but it's not aesthetically appealing at the moment. And they're just kind of falling all over. So behind that are some of those plug robustissima anemones that we put in, starting to bloom. And the raspberry wine monarda is definitely gone over. I had to kind of stake this Shenandoah switchgrass. I just put in some green garden stakes to hold it in place until I get that divided and relocated. If we head to the other side of the courtyard garden, the shadier corner, this one is just completely filled out. I will probably come through in a few weeks and thin some of these ferns, take a couple of the ferns out, move these heucheras out from under the canopy of all of this. The bugbane is now going to seed. I did have to cut back a bunch of the wands because they were just kind of going crazy and toppling into the walkway, as well as some of the flowering stems on the hostas. I was quite worried earlier in the season because the Darmera peltata just was not doing well. Nearly all the stems had died back. It was not looking great at all, but in the last couple of weeks it's really been flushing out a lot of new growth, so I think it was just all of the heat that it wasn't used to receiving so early on just caused it to struggle. And I have a few different types of Redbeckias. I can't recall which ones these are. I'm sure I have the tags somewhere. But these are my only variety that get the black spot. And this year it's gotten it a little bit worse than it usually does. It doesn't really affect anything with the plant. It's just an aesthetic thing. So I'm thinking I might pull these ones out and replace them with divisions of a different variety I have that do not get the black spot. That'll either happen in a few weeks as well, or maybe I'll do that in the spring. I don't know that you can like truly capture in this video, but this Grace smoke bush is enormous. It has put on so much growth this year. It's absolutely beautiful, and it's probably one of my favorite. I just love the shade of green that it is. It's such a soft shade of green, and then it has that pink veining, and all of the new leaf growth come out in this kind of pink purple color. It has yet to flower, so maybe next year. The ironweeds, which I think these are iron butterfly, are starting to flower, and they are afflicted with rust this year. If you can see all those speckles there. It's not too bad. It is on all three of them in the fire pit garden. It's just what happens with all of the humidity, and July, when we just got those excessive amounts of rain combined with 90-degree heat, yeah, it was some humid times. And you can see even my grape crush asters are just, they look awful. They've never looked like this, and I'm attributing it to the same kind of weather factors. Actually, let's step inside. These are baby Joe pie weeds. I feel like they were only supposed to get like 3.5 foot tall. This one is definitely every bit of 4 foot tall. And behind it, or behind this ironweed, is one that is well over 5 foot tall, but it looks lovely. This little vignette with the ironweed, the Joe Pye weed, and the Carl Forrester feather reed grass. Looks really great. This was the Cherry Pops Monarda, which did not succumb to powdery mildew as early in the season as it usually does, and actually it didn't get it as badly as it usually does as well. So I'm going to keep it there. I'm going to keep it, and we'll just monitor it, see how it does. This is kind of that section that got newly planted earlier in the season this year, with this tall coneflower and some of the Carl Forrester feather reed grasses. And they don't look great, but they are not dead. They have green growth, and they'll be, back to their normal, healthy selves next season. On this other side, these are the Falling in Love Sweetly anemones. That are coming into bloom, and they're a really beautiful, like double-petaled, ruffly ones, quite floriferous, and they stay much more compact than your typical Japanese anemones. These were those banana cream daisies. These plants also, just after they flowered, really looked a little worse for wear, so it came through. I mean, you can still see some of the remaining. Cut out all the dead, getting a few more blooms. The Caradonna salvia have really been going for weeks and weeks. Put on a lot of growth as well. These ones also came from plugs, as well as the Junior Walker Nepeta. These ones finally have nearly caught up to the ones further in the corner there. This was a Rudbeckia that I must have missed when we planted up this little corner, so she'll get moved around. And these are those Pennisetum grasses. I think Hamlin, however you pronounce it, that I was kind of concerned about because these two didn't look that great and took a while to really put on growth, but they're filling out. This one obviously kind of has this dead center patch, and I'm thinking I might split it or see how it goes. I'm not sure. That one's doing a little bit better. And as you can see, my chickens have come through and covered my path for me. This is the area where the little button quail habitat was. I removed that. I'm only down to 4 button quail right now, so they're staying in their indoor enclosure all year. It's just a lot easier. They're not very long-lived, so I have 4 senior citizen button quail who I don't expect to be with me a whole lot longer. Oh, and actually, we've got something boring into the stem of this hydrangea, so we'll have to address that. So I added this in. This is Little Hottie. It did not bloom for me this year because of some deer damage. Story of the year. This is the Firelight, which got a few blooms that were missed by the deer there. Again, this is the one that I moved from the Redbud garden that was growing near that walnut stump and was dying. Really rebounded this year. Looks lovely. And this corner is just everything I had hoped it would be. Obviously, the Firelights still have a lot of filling out to do, but putting on so much growth, so many flowers. They look great. And the combination of these Junior Walker Nepidas and the Rudbeckias, the penstemons, it all just feels right. And then back here, we have another variety of aster. These are Purple Dome, and they're just starting to get their flowers. And these ones are growing very well, and you can see that there isn't a bunch of leggy kind of dieback on the bottom part of the plants. So this variety this year I'm highly recommending. This begonia in this planter is doing really, really well, so that was a win for me. And yeah, I think as I mentioned, I really have not been able to spend a whole lot of time in the garden, so there's a bit of a mess. There's a lot of weeds, things that need to be cleaned up that I'm starting to get back to doing this week, which feels good. But I figured we'd share it anyway. Now, again, the deer really came through here earlier in the season and did a number on my hostas, on my hydrangeas. This one, as you can see, only has just a handful of blooms on it, which is unfortunate. These bobos look nice. This one is about half the size of the one next to it, but these still have quite a few panicles on them. Looking really lovely. I planted more of the Falls in Love Sweetly anemones up here, just a few of them. The deer nipped them, so they're not quite where the other ones are. And here's that third bobo right there. This is the wisteria, which I have it on my list this week to put more branches across because she is about to the top. You can see we got a branch over here that needs to go somewhere, or a vine over there rather. The Haas Halos. This is the one that didn't get touched by the deer. So this one has the most lace caps, and they're just that really pretty green stage right now. These ones did all get hit by the deer. Obviously, it could have been much, much worse, so I don't even want to complain. I still have a decent amount of flowers on them. Same with these Max Vogel anemones. Deer got a lot of them, but you can see the little kind of pearls ready to open. We still have a whole lot. So these are coming in kind of waves. It's been really nice to watch. The limelight looks a little raggedy from the damage from the roofers, as well as, again, the deer. And actually, I do need to come through here and thin out these anemones. I need to kind of take out some in this area and then actually over on this side, because I completely missed the fact that this is a Hydrangea serrata. It's a tough stuff. It did not get any flowers this year, which is sad, but the shrub itself looks bigger and better than it ever has, so I guess we'll take what we can get. And then I did get this planter box planted up. I've been a wee bit neglectful in getting it fertilized and watered. I need to come through and do that. It could look so much better than it does. Another plant that has been struggling for me this year are all of my Sun King Aralias. I have 3 of them. This is the smallest of the 3 Sun Kings, but yeah, they all are a little brown and raggedy. These Kodiak black honeysuckles, though, look wonderful. And then this is, again, another little drift of the tough stuff, and only one of these has flowered. And then I have another one around the corner that has a few flowers on it, but the shrubs themselves look way better than they have in past years. So maybe they also got nipped and I didn't realize it and lost their flower buds. But you can see right there is another one of the Sun King Aralias. Not looking great. These are a Bloody Mary nasturtium that I grew from seed. Here's one of the flowering tough stuffs. And yeah, that third and the largest of the Sun King Aralia is just looking icky, and I have already gone through once and kind of cut out the dead portions, and it's just giving me more, so I don't even think we're going to be getting berries this year. Maybe a few. If we can get to it, the Black Hills Beauty Simisifuga are starting to get their spikes. And these ones will be a soft pink, which looks really lovely against that dark, dark foliage. So, an interesting thing. These are the gladiolas that I planted last year that did not flower last year. I got them in way too late, and then I didn't bother digging up the bulbs or anything, and they came up and they did flower for me. They're kind of toppling now, but yeah, they did flower. They are not the color that I think they were supposed to be. I'm pretty certain I had a darker color, but I could be wrong, but I'll take it. This little corner is looking wild and lush. I never came through and kind of deadheaded these white wands Veronicas like I should have, so the wands are over a foot long and kind of rangy. Oh my goodness, so many weeds in here. I really have not been through to weed anything, unfortunately, and I never got in here to do kind of a top dressing of mulch either, so I did order another chip drop. I will be doing all of that in the near future. These are just a phlox that were already on the property in different locations. they almost glow. They almost look a little luminescent. They're really, really lovely in this area. I feel like they've never quite looked as vibrant as they do right here, so that's nice. And the sanguisorbas, again, they did bloom. I mean, they are just a fraction of the size that they are supposed to be, so I think this is their last chance. I think I will be relocating those. This is the chocolate eupatorium, which will get white flowers. Hopefully we will get the flowers. They are later in the year bloomer, so I'm not concerned as of right yet. Oh, and you can just see how sad this firelight looks after the damage from the deer. I mean, it did, shoot up a lot of growth after the fact, but it was looking so lovely, and now it's eh. And before I head over to the Redbud garden, I just wanted to show these moonbeam coreopsis again. I just have the 2 plants, and they have been blooming for months at this point, and I have not deadheaded a thing. They just keep flushing out new flowers, and the old, I mean, you can see they're there, but they're not that noticeable. They're quite small and insignificant looking. Just highly recommend this variety. I did finally get all of the rocks moved from here. I just have them kind of in a holdover area because they were so much larger than what they were supposed to be, than what I paid for. So I didn't really have places for such large ones, but they're holding over, and maybe I can pluck them in places here and there as we go along. I really need to come through here and mow, but in due time. So this is the pycnanthemum, the short-tooth mountain mint, pollinator favorite, kind of gone over, still has some blooms. Transplanted all of these this year, so they didn't quite get up to size. Next year they will be completely back to normal, I suspect. Little drift of Millennium alliums. These are one of the new varieties of Monarda that I planted that were supposed to be very resistant to powdery mildew. I don't really want to use this year as a judge because the weather this year was just nothing like it's ever been. So in a more normal year, if that happens, we'll see how they do. But the color was great, and the size of the blooms was wonderful. And it's not that bad. I mean, it isn't great, obviously, but I think everybody that lives in a humid climate understands that if you want to grow Monardas, you might have to deal with the powdery mildew. Rudbeckia's back there. I must have 2 different types. I must have mixed in 2 different types because these ones in the forefront are smaller, different leaves. The ones in the back are a bit larger. They're blooming at different times, so that's interesting. More of those robustissima anemones are starting to grow, and those will get much taller in the coming years. Again, this was just their first year. These are a couple of fat domino persicarias that I kind of tried to hide back here because I got them as bare roots a couple years ago, and I think it's the rabbits really just chew them down in the places that I've had them before. It could have been deer. So I kind of tried to hide them in here, and this is the first time that they've ever gotten to bloom. They're not big, it's nothing spectacular, but it's a start. More of those purple dome asters, just starting to get their flowers. And then here's that mix of seed-grown Burning Hearts Heliopsis And I put a few of these white swan echinaceas kind of around it, which I really like. Actually, I think white swan and mellow yellow from the looks of it. Yes, and then these are all white swan up here circling the bird bath, which is already empty. This is that red rover persicaria, which again, the deer seem to like this one. So yeah, maybe it's the deer eating the other variety as well. But enough to get a couple little blooms. I'm not growing this for the blooms. They're quite insignificant, but exciting nonetheless. And that's underneath that redbud, which just looks wonderful in this area. These are the blue Eddie alliums, which seem to grow a bit larger and more open than the millenniums. I never came through and deadheaded these daisies either, so gaze upon my mass of brown stems. And I'm really happy with how the Supreme Cantaloupe echinaceas did. They did not revert like I've heard some people having issues with. I got way more stems this year. They're obviously a little gone over at this point, but they looked lovely, and it's definitely the color that I need. And this big old drift of Rudbeckias are looking lovely. I need to do some dividing over here. They have smothered my blue kazoo spirea down there. Hopefully it's still hanging on to life. But the most impressive thing over here, I don't know if you can see her, we got a garden spider. She's so big. Let's see. Yeah, she big. And here's her beautiful web. She's been there for at least a couple of weeks now that I've noticed. So we just let her do her thing. She's found herself a good spot. I will be pulling this shrub, if you can call it that, Black Tower elderberry. It's never done wonderfully. It hasn't been in that long, but this year just awful. Absolutely awful. And this was not due to deer damage. This was just the shrub not happy here. They're a struggle for me to grow, which is unfortunate because they grow wild all around me. So I thought that, they would be something that did well. I was wrong. And some of the Monardas and Joe Pyeweed plugs as well from earlier this year that we got in. Northwind switchgrasses. They will get much larger than this, but I'm happy with the growth that they have put on. This is still an area that obviously I want to get filled in the future, kind of behind the ginkgo here. Pearl Glam Beauty Berry. Starting to get its flowers. Actually, yeah, the whole back half here kind of needs to be weeded and filled in. Okay, and on the other side in this pathway in the Redbud garden, this is that area that we newly planted up. So, still, doing some filling in. The poor serviceberry. Yeah, got nibbled on a bit. Just leaves, so that's good. But it did get berries. The birds devoured them. Was lovely. It's exactly what I was hoping would happen. Right here is, I believe, Southern Cross Vernonia, so another ironweed. And this one does not have any rust, so that's nice. And then obviously this whole bed still needs some work. And you know, this is a redbud that we got on clearance last year. Was it last year? Anyway, maybe it was the year before in the autumn, and put in, and it has put on so much growth. We got this at the same time as we got the forest pansy. I don't even know if you can kind of make it out at the back end of the truck there. And yeah, this one, just massive amounts of growth, and even got seed pods this year. So very happy with that one. I won't take you into the orchard garden, but it's been a struggle. I feel like struggle is kind of the theme of all of my gardens this year. Due to the weather, due to the pests, like I have had so many issues with deer and rabbits this year, and it's not that they're new and that I don't know that they're there, but they have been so persistent and relentless this year, and I want to say even more numerous, but maybe that's just me. My button bush flowered for the first time this year, and you can see the seed heads still on there. It was absolutely wonderful. It was such a happy moment. And this is actually a monarch caterpillar. She's about to start her chrysalis. I found her on a snapdragon last night when I was harvesting. That I had already cut the snapdragon and saw her there and realized she was starting to, form her chrysalis. So I moved her there. I'm excited that I'll get to kind of see that process. It's always fun. This area also needs some work. These Rudbeckias were not supposed to be as tall as they are. They are completely blocking out the tiny wine gold 9-bark. Back there. I mean, they look great, but yeah, that's not ideal, obviously. So I will probably move these kind of over into that area. This garden is also really done well. There's a couple things that have struggled. I have not had any blooms from any of the campanulas that I planted. They just get eaten. The moment they put on any new growth whatsoever, they just get eaten by the rabbits. So poor choice on my part. I don't think that they will be staying here, unfortunately. These phlox, which I believe are just like a David garden phlox, again, these are a variety that were here. They look a little worse for wear. Again, weather. This is the little tickler grass, which gets these fun seed heads. Really like these a lot. This is a wee white hydrangea. Yeah, we'll see what happens next year with it. One success though were my hibiscus. I've still got some new blooms that'll be coming out. They didn't really get hit with Japanese beetles, so that was nice. This one, the same, still has a few. The anemones behind the bench are looking great. Again, in the coming years, these will get much taller. I imagine that the foliage will probably hit about where that rail is and then tower above the bench, which will be beautiful. And more of those Joe Pye weed and Monarda plugs. This is the slightly more purple variety of the Monarda. And these ones did not lie to me. I have not noticed any powdery mildew. Maybe, okay, I guess looking really close, maybe down very, very low on the plants. But yeah, they look great. So, one win. My planter boxes, we went on a little trip and I forgot to ask the sitter to water those, and they can only survive for so long when it's 90 degrees and they're not getting any water and nutrients, so that was my bad. Also, a little wren made a nest in that one, so that was cute. This area is still a work in progress. I'm figuring it out. The squash are starting to get some powdery mildew as well. I've been cutting off some of the heavily affected leaves. The Monte Gusto beans I've been snacking on are delicious. My mums, I'm really hoping I will get blooms, but again, when the deer came through here, I've never grown chrysanthemums before, so I don't know if now they're a lost cause or if they will flower, so we will see. Tomatoes are doing okay in here. This was all just topsoil, so not very many nutrients in here. I shouldn't have put the tomatoes in this bed. I didn't think that through. That's my fault. But they're doing okay. I've been harvesting some fruit from them. The peppers would be doing amazing if the deer didn't come through here and the rabbits didn't come through and kind of destroy them, but they have still been pumping out. I came through last night and harvested a whole bunch, but then I stopped because I wanted to share. These are little lunchbox snacking peppers, and I mean, you can just see this plant is just loaded. Bell pepper's doing well. This is my bed of sunflowers. I have one that survived the pests. So just really disheartening. This year was just not my year. And this side is truly no better. They destroyed my cucumber plants, ate all of my bush beans. I have not harvested a single bush bean. They even came through and ate my carrots, the foliage. So I only have a few carrots left. I mean, it does still look beautiful. You know, from a distance, it looks beautiful. And isn't that what gardening is? So many struggles, such a learning experience. No matter how long you've been doing it, there will always be challenges. But there are always rewards too. So it's what I love about it. I'm not trying to get too down about this year. But thank you for joining me, and we'll see you in the next video.